Dear students, uh, we will join in another topic of discussion today, that is ethics in clinical research. During clinical research, worldwide, we are following same ethics to protect the rights of the subjects those who are enrolled under a clinical trial. There is a vast history behind this practice of following ethics throughout the globe, and we will discuss about the developments happen throughout the world in this ethics and related other matters, enrollment of subjects under a trial, and their rights, safety, providing safety and maintaining the safety, evaluating the safety in various levels, and also payment of compensation to the subjects enrolled under the study. There are many things we are going to discuss under this chapter. What is ethics? The word ethics is derived from the Greek word ethos, which means custom or character. Ethics is the systematic study of value so as to decide what is right and what is wrong. Legally, we can make one person to work under a particular limits. Apart from that, naturally, we should create people to work in a right direction always. That is called building ethics among the people. Ethics is a subject that deals with values, principles, beliefs, and opinions. Not a natural science, but a creation of the human mind, open to the influence of time, place, and situation, a framework to determine what is right and wrong regarding human action, character, and behavior. Unlike law, which regulates the external behavior, there is a quotation about ethics. The first step in the evaluation of ethics is a sense of solidarity with the human beings. We are treating human beings under a clinical trial. We are not handling just a subject. So accordingly, the ethical principles gains more importance. What is a clinical research? Human subject research or a clinical research is a systematic investigation that can be either research or clinically oriented and involves the use of human subject in any capacity. So, what are the moral problems usually occur in clinical research? The goal of the clinical research is generation of useful knowledge about human health and illness. So, benefit to participants is not the purpose of research. Benefit to the participant is not the purpose of the research, although it does occur. People are the means to developing useful knowledge here and are thus at risk of exploitation. So they will be experimented, used for experimentation, and knowledge will be gained from their treatment, but their benefit is not the actual aim of clinical research. So that is the actual problem. Ethics of clinical research. Ethical requirement in clinical research is minimize the possibility of exploitation. So if you are adopting an ethics, so thereby we can minimize the possibility of exploitation. Ensure that the rights and welfare of subjects are respected. History, there is a vast history behind these developments. Finally, we are following in a very strong ethical guidelines nowadays. Initially, how was the situation? There is a quotation: those who do not learn from history are doomed to repeat it. So again and again, those people, those who not learned from the previous history, will repeat the mistakes again and again. That is true. The Nuremberg Code 1947 is one incident, and after that developments were made, and the Declaration of Helsinki was made in the year 1964. US Code of Federal Regulations came into effect in the year 1974. And then the National Research Act and the IRB, Institutional Review Board system, was followed from the year 1974. The Belmont Report 1979, Indian Council of Medical Research ICMR guidelines followed in India came to effect from the year 2000, and the modifications 2006. So like these are the milestones in the development of ethics followed in clinical research. What is Nuremberg Code? You see, the actual incident that made to implement certain ethical guidelines as in the form of Nuremberg Code is Nazis experiments. In Germany, the Nazi government did so many exploitations and experiments on human subject. Children and this is one picture that shows children in concentration camps who had been used for medical experiment. They were used for experiments, and this is an thalidomide tragedy. After that, the born children were born with many deformations, and after these so many incidents, Nuremberg trial was implemented, conducted without consent of participants, and caused unnecessary pain, suffering, and death, absence of benefits for the participants, lack of adequate scientific rationale. So, on that ground, many experiments were conducted at that time. That leads to a lot of problems to the participants. And the Nuremberg Code was made. After that, is a set of research ethics principles for human experimentation as a as a result of the subsequent Nuremberg trials. The Nuremberg trials were done with so many violations, and finally these codes were declared by the world community at the end of the Second World War. This was made. The 10 points of the Nuremberg Code were very popular and accepted throughout the world. The voluntary consent of the human subject is absolutely essential. That is the actual summary of the entire Nuremberg Code. The voluntary consent of the human subject is absolutely essential. So before that, informed consent form was not in practice. After this only that become important ethical guideline. The Declaration of Helsinki is the next guideline, adopted in the year 1964 by the 18th World Medical Assembly, held in the country Finland in Helsinki. A notable change from the Nuremberg Code was a relaxation of the conditions of consent. There, it is in the Nuremberg Code, it is stated that this informed consent is compulsory, and by making it mandatory compulsory, certain situations we cannot conduct clinical trials. So by considering that, some relaxation were made in Helsinki. Obtain consent if at all possible, like that a small change was made. Even though relaxation was made, monitoring committees were suggested, introduced the concept of oversight by an independent committee or ethics committee. So one ethics committee should be there. They continuously observe the rights and benefits of the human subjects enrolled in the study, and if any violations found, that should be seriously taken and considered, and that may finally leads to stop suspension of the entire clinical research. So like that, very strong organizations were made after this Helsinki Declaration. The Declaration of Helsinki, the overall summary is all protocols must be submitted to an ethics committee for review. which must be independent of the investigators. It is a totally independent. Nobody should be connected to the study. The sponsors or any other kind of undue influence should be there in the ethical committee. So that is the summary of outcome of Helsinki Declaration. Like that, next milestone in this development is Belmont Report. The incident was Tuskegee syphilis study, cited as arguably the most infamous biomedical research study in the US history. Syphilis study was done. 399 black men thought to have syphilis were recruited and followed to determine the course of the disease. What would happen to them is one particular race was used in this study, and they were forced into this study to take part. Penicillin was known to be an effective treatment for syphilis by about 1947. The subjects were not informed of what was being studied or of the treatment alternatives available. Nothing was informed to them. No consent was obtained. After that, severe problems may occur. Many people reported with adverse reactions, and finally, Belmont report was made to fine tune the existing ethical principles. National Research Act, Belmont Report 1979. The report established three tenets of ethical research. In the ethical research, respect for person should be verified and maintained throughout the study. Beneficence and justice. There should be benefit. Benefit should be higher to the human subject, those who take part, and justice. If at all anything happen goes wrong, then proper justice to be given for that. That was the Belmont report. Ethics guidelines in India. India has strong ethics guidelines for clinical research. Every clinical trial program should be reviewed by an ethics committee. Initial review of proposed research protocols, regular monitoring of compliance to ethics guidelines can be constituted by the institute where research is done, and it should be totally independent, and it should be a multidisciplinary. That means some are related to the topic of the study, some are from the law field of law, some are from the social activists and common laymen. Like that, many people will be take part in this review process, ethical guidelines implementation process, and multi-sectorial. So like that, ethical guidelines are followed in India. This is the ICMR guidelines regarding ethical guidelines for biomedical research on human participants, released in the year 2006, and that is in practice in India. Apart from that, national guidelines for accreditation, supervision, and regulation of ART clinics in India, 2005, and draft ICMR DPT guidelines, stem cell research and therapy, 2006. These are various other guidelines which are about by following the previous ICMR guidelines were made. Good clinical practices for clinical research in India, also maintaining the ethical principles in clinical research conducted in India. Developed by Central Drug Standard Control Organization, CDSCO, is the regulatory authority in India. The prerequisite for the study is important, and it defines what are the responsibilities of stakeholders involved in the clinical trial, and how the record to be kept, maintained, and data should be handled, and quality assurance systems that should ensure the safety in every time when that study is in progress, and also the statistical procedures then and there. It should be studied once the study is experimental part is completed. Immediately the statistical studies should be done parallelly, so that we can evaluate that the study is progressing in the right direction as it is specified in the protocol. Core principles of clinical trial ethics. Three basic principles. One is justice. Second one is respect for person. Third one is beneficence and non-maleficence. Justice, we have to state very clearly justifications to be done, why this study is very much important and how it is useful to the mankind, why it should be done. No, there are no other procedures. This is the only way. And also respect for person. If we are enrolling human subjects, even they may be an poor or maybe an child and mentally not stable person, whoever it may be, their respect should be maintained. And beneficence, non-maleficence. The outcome of the study should be benefit to the mankind, also to the risk associated with the study should be very minimum to the study subjects, thereby maximizing the benefit, minimizing harms and wrongs, do no harm. So that is called non-maleficence. Principles of ethical research components. So after this declarations, Helsinki, ethical principles of ethics were declared. The Declaration of Helsinki was first adopted by the World Medical Association at the 18th WMA General Assembly held in Helsinki, Finland in June 1964. The declaration titled The Ethical Principles for Medical Research Involving Human Subjects. Ethical essential elements of ethical research are uh, that to minimize the risk to the subjects enrolled under the study, maximize the benefit, and benefit should be proportional to or outweigh the risk. There may be risk, known risk, that should be clearly stated to the subjects, and apart from the risk, the benefit should be higher. And non-maleficence and beneficence. These are the essential elements. Based on that, the first principle is principle of essentiality. Test on human beings only if absolutely essential, that should be done. Does all current search research certify that the drug is safe? That should be verified. Existing data should be collected whether the investigational drug is safe or what. The research being carried out should be essential for the advancement of knowledge and benefits of the patients, doctors, and all others in aspect of healthcare, and also for the ecological and environmental well-being of the planet. So huge benefit should be expected from the study. So that is called the principle of essentiality. Then non-exploitation. It provide remuneration to test subjects and inform subjects about all potential side effects and risks, ensure ample compensation for accidental injury, and insurance, rehabilitation, lifelong support, everything will be ensured. So that is the research participants should be remunerated for the involvement in the research or experiment. So they should not be enrolled for free of cost. Moreover, the participants should be made aware of all the risks involved irrespective of their social and economic conditions or educational level attained. Such research protocols should include provisions of compensation for the human participants either through insurance cover or any other appropriate mean to cover all the seeable and foreseeable and hidden risks. Then principles of confidentiality, privacy and confidentiality. All the data acquired for research purpose should be kept confidential to prevent disclosure of identity of the involved participant and should not be disclosed without valid legal or scientific reason. So thereby the privacy of the subjects are need to be maintained. Inform subjects about the extent to which personal info should be disclosed. So some extent we have to disclose because it is a research, some data should be openly to be told. So some how much data, in how much extent it will be disclosed. that should be informed in the beginning itself. Do not divulge identity and records of test subjects as far as possible. Do not provide information which will allow identity to be guessed. So like that, the privacy to be maintained. Principle of precaution and risk minimization. Design the study such that risk of the subject is minimized and no adverse side effects like that, or there should be a very minimum possible adverse side effects. Principle of precaution and risk minimization that ensures due care and caution should be taken at all stages of the research and experiment from the beginning of the study, formulation of research design protocol, conduct of the research or experiment and its subsequent applicative use in everything that should be reflected, and to prevent research participants from any harm and adverse events. Ethical committee has to play an active role in risk minimization. So they should evaluate before approving the clinical trial. Competence, principle of competence. That is, the people, those who are involving in the clinical trial, collecting data, and investigating the study, investigators, they should have a proper professional competence. All personnel involved in the trial should have a proper training and qualification in the field. Very good exposure to this area of study and experience is essential always. A strong sense of ethics is essential for the personnel involving in the study. Then only they will give more importance to the safety of the participants and secondary importance to the data collected during the study. Principle of accountability and transparency is the next principle. The researcher should conduct experiment in fair, honest, impartial, transparent manner after full disclosure of his or her interest in research. They should also retain the research data subject to the principles of privacy and confidentiality for a minimum period of 5 years. So my 5 years minimum, they should maintain the data. In case if any legal proceedings are going on, then should be maintained more than 5 years to be scrutinized by the appropriate legal and administrative authority if necessary. That is called accountability and transparency. Then principle of accountability, the summary is on aspect of the study should be hidden except for privacy reasons. No aspect of the study should be hidden except the privacy reasons. Prior disclosure of all conflict of interest, whatever problems associated with the people, with the finance, with the institutions, everything should be openly stated. Maintain permanent records of all research data and notes. Fix responsibility for the study and its outcomes. Burden of proof in all is always with those who conduct the trial, not on the subjects enrolled on the study. Public interest and of distributive justice. The results of the research should be used for benefit of all humans, especially the research participants themselves and or the community from which they are drawn, and not only to those who are socially better off. It should be available to all the set of participants, not only to the certain group of people. So the distributive justice is essential. People of the principle of the maximization of the public interest and distributive justice. The summary is the benefit of the research should be equally distributed to all the level of the people in the society. Research on genetics should not lead to racial inequalities. And do not conduct research on economically weak sections, and avoid implicit coercions. Do not enroll people at a disadvantage in the study. For example, prisoners, students, subordinates, employees. So they are under some institution or under some control. So those people should not be exploited under a study. ensure complete freedom of choice when they are enrolled. They should have complete freedom. Distributive justice, the exact definition is the local study population will not significantly benefit from the research if the new therapy will not be affordable to them, although they are taking a high proportion of the risk. One group of people are experimented, but it is not, the outcome is not affordable to them. What is the use? So, such researches should not be conducted on a certain group of people. Principles of institutional arrangements. It is required that all institutional arrangements required to be made in respect of the research and its subsequent use or application should be duly made in transparent manner. So everything, whatever necessary, everything should be arranged. That is the responsibility of the sponsor and investigators. Public domain. The results of any research work done should be made public through publications or other means. So thereby the researchers will get patentability, their rights are maintained, copyrights are maintained, although the details are available in the public domain, so nothing is hidden. Even before publication, the detailed information of clinical trial should be made public before start of recruitment via clinical trial registry system that allow free online access. So once it is published, the research community will get benefit of their data protection, and also the study participants also will get information then and there without hiding. So these are some examples of some public domain available throughout the world, maintained by various governments. So in that it will be published. Principles of totality of responsibility. Who is responsible? All those directly or indirectly connected with the research should take the professional and moral responsibility for the due observance of all the principles, guidelines, or prescriptions laid down in respect of the researcher. The stakeholders of the clinical research identified by ICH guidelines, GCP guidelines, all are responsible, entirely responsible for everything which is taking place in clinical research. Principles of compliance. All those associated with the research work should comply by the guidelines pertaining to the specific area of the research. For research to be conducted ethically, we need to follow general principles laid down by the ICMR in India. In order to follow these principles, one should be aware about the informed consent process, vulnerable population, therapeutic misconception, post-trial access, and structure and role of ethics committee. These are the various outcomes of these research implementation after this ethical principles. So to maintain these ethical principles during the study, we need a monitoring system called ethical committee, and we have to get consent from the study populations, and that is called informed consent process. And also we should enroll study subjects with a proper inclusion exclusion criteria stated well very clearly in the protocol. So accordingly we should identify who are all the vulnerable subjects as per this study topic of the study, and what is the rights of the subjects after the trial, post trial access, therapeutic misconsumption. All these are the outcomes after the implementation of ethical principles in the clinical research that we see elaborately. Patient rights in the clinical trial. Use in the country after approval drug, that is and the rights, the participant should be used in the study after only after obtaining approval from the regulatory authority, and um, and after the clinical trial approval, the approved drug should be marketed only in an affluent countries. So exposure to a large population is avoided. Insist on drug would be released in India also at a price that is reasonable. So it is affordable to all the people, those who participated in the study. And vulnerability of the patients in the trial. We should identify who are all the population vulnerable. People, those who taken part in the study for the sake of money paid, or health care to the family, like that, any offerings, any free medicines at the hospital, free diagnostic test provided, counter to the cardinal principles of autonomy, anything violations done, and not be compelled or unfairly enticed to participate. They're not forced into the study, and truly a free choice, or what. So like that, we have to evaluate. That is called. That is all the rights of the patients. And patient enrolled in clinical trial when trials are closed and number are completed because of recruitment of patients in other countries. Numbers are completed because of recruitment of patients in other countries. That means the sample size. Importance to ensure that all persons in the trial receive their drug. That is, some group of the trial without experimentation only receiving placebo is totally against the ethics, and should be a built-in safeguard when approved in a clinical trial. And participant cannot offer the drug, should be able to obtain at a reduced price or entirely free, uh, and no information is ever provided about the outcome, and must be provided not only to the participants of the trial but also to the community. These are the various rights offered. And placebo usage, unethical with the placebo to a group of patients when there is a drug available to cure. No role for a placebo in conditions for which there is already an effective drug. Evaluation of new drugs for diabetes is an example. There we should not use placebo. We can use with another drug, existing drug. There is one example happened in and reported in the year 2004 in New England Journal of Medicine. The study was designed to conduct on HIV-1 patients in Thailand. Those were among them zidovudin, and effect of nevirapine and zidovudin was experimented. So during this study, the study was designed to test the superiority of nevirapine. Nevirapine is good compared to zidovudin. That was the study, and in that study, placebos were used, and use of placebo is totally unethical, and poor countries can anyway never afford to and another ethical problem found in the study is they experimented zidovudin on the people. The region or the people enrolled are very poor, and according to the price, the AZT, that is formerly known as acidothymidan. That is the current name of this acidothymidan is called zidovudin. But the short form AZ1T only we are using for this drug to represent. And this drug is not affordable to the poor people. Even though they are enrolled in the study, there is no benefit for them because the cost is very high. It's not affordable to them. So like that, ethical violations were found in this study that was reported in the year 2004. And some special groups enroll under the study. For example, pregnant nursing women. Only for research, To better the health of pregnant nursing women, fetus or infants, ensure that there is no risk to fetus or infant, then only they can be enrolled in the study. Otherwise, there is no permission for enrolling pregnant women, lactating mother, or children under the study. Only if you are experimenting on children, only trials for drugs to improve child health. There is no other way. It should be done on children only. On that case, it is permitted, and only conduct trials on children after phase 3 clinical trials on adults. After the phase 3 on adult, the experiment is permitted to conduct on children. There are some exemptions. Exception is drugs for disease only affecting children. So adults will not show any effect in that case. Consent from parents and or legal guardians is very much essential, because children cannot uh, sign under informed consent form. They are not eligible legally. So it should be obtained from parents and legal guardians. Consent from child is in the case of mature, minor, and adolescents is acceptable. And respect of children. The Declaration of Helsinki states that obtain informed consent from parent if child capable, obtain informed consent from the child. The National Commission guideline says that, and the parental permission, but within limits, can be obtained, protect child's health and safety. That is very important. If there is any risk associated with that, then parent permissions is not valid. Child assent, not as a right but a benefit. Nature's child's moral growth and developing autonomy states that the child's consent is essential. Including pregnant women in clinical trials. What are the guidelines? Ethical guidelines says pregnant women may be included on clinical trial only when the purpose of the trial is to meet the health needs of the mother, and the fetus will be placed at risk only at the minimal extent necessary to meet such needs. There is very less possibility for the problem of the fetus, and for mother is absolutely safe, and it is for the benefit of the pregnant mother. The study is totally no other way. It should be conducted on the pregnant woman. So on that case, it is permitted. The risk to the fetus is minimal, and additional general limitations require that research involving pregnant woman and fetus only take place when appropriate studies on animal and non-pregnant individuals have been completed and there is no problems were noticed, and the risk of the fetus is the least possible risk for achieving the objectives of the trial, including when the purpose of the trial is to meet the health needs of the mother or the fetus, or the risk to the fetus is minimal. And individuals engaged in the research have no part in decision regarding any termination of pregnancy or viability of a fetus. That should not be done. That's not a part of the informed consent. No procedural changes which will cause greater than minimal risk to the woman or a fetus will be introduced into the procedure for terminating the pregnancy solely in the interest of the trial, and no inducements are offered to terminate a pregnancy for the purpose of the study. So on that basis, an pregnant woman can be included in a clinical trial. That's what the ethical guidelines says. And FDA guidelines states that appropriate precautions should be taken in clinical studies to guard against inadvertent exposure of fetus to potentially toxic agents, and to inform subjects and patients of potential risk and the need for precautions. So that should be well informed in the protocol in the patient information leaflet. In all cases, the informed consent document and investigator's brochure should include all available information regarding the potential risk to the fetus. If animal reproductive toxicity studies are complete, the results should be presented with some explanation of their significance in human. And if these studies have not been completed, other pertinent information should be provided, such as a general assessment of fetal toxicity in drugs with related structures or drug with related structures or pharmacological effects. If no relevant information is available, then the informed consent should explicitly note the potential for fetal risk. And who are all the vulnerable population as per ethical guidelines? Persons who are relatively or absolutely incapable of protecting their own interest are termed as vulnerable research population. Example, the very poor people, illiterate patients, children, individuals with questionable capacity to give consent, including psychiatric patients, prisoners, fetus, pregnant women, terminally ill patients, students, employees, patients under coma stage, comatose patients, tribals, and the elderly patients. They're all called as vulnerable population. So obtaining informed consent from these vulnerable subject is a questionable one. The vulnerable population refers to, but not limited to, physically, intellectually challenged individuals, institutionalized individuals, elderly individuals, visual or hearing impaired, ethnic minorities, refugees, international research, economically and educationally disabled, and healthy volunteers. So like that, additionally, explanations goes for explains the vulnerable subjects. It is the responsibility of the ethical committee to see whether the inclusion of vulnerable population in the study is justifiable, should not be exploited. And ethical committee should consult the representative of vulnerable population. The research is only justified if it is responsive to the health needs and priority of vulnerable population or community, and if population or community would be benefited from the research, then only vulnerable population people can take part in the clinical trial. With this, we complete the part 1 discussion. We will continue in the next class. Thank you very much.